watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is 11 o'clock and we are standing by for a couple of things at this hour that I want to let you know that we are watching for. First of all, on the left, you are looking inside the Florida Cabinet meeting room inside the state capitol, where we expect Attorney General James Uthmeier to hold a news conference any minute now. You see the placard on the podium there says the law and order state. We don't know exactly what he's going to be talking about, but he is joined by officials with the Florida Retail Federation and an asset protection manager of organized retail crime investigations with the Home Depot. So we would expect it to have something to do with organized retail crime, which we have heard several busts in recently from the Attorney General and other officials across the state. We're also standing by for an announcement from the President in the Oval Office expected sometime this hour. So let's go ahead and listen in as the Attorney General walks up and a number of others continue to file into the room there, including some law enforcement that we see. I see Wilton Simpson, the Agriculture Commissioner, as well. Let's go ahead and listen in as this news conference gets underway in Tallahassee.
It's an honor to be joined by Commissioner Wilton Simpson, our statewide prosecutor Brad McVeigh, our Ag Law Colonel Mr. Lee Adams, Tallahassee Police Chief Lawrence Revell, Lorena Holly from the Florida Retail Federation, Tyson Roberts, the Manager of Investigations at Home Depot, and representative from our Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Deputies Orby Watts and Adam Cates. Today we're here to announce a recent bust of an organized crime ring that was stealing in elaborate fashion from Home Depots. And I'll let the Colonel give a little bit more detail here in a moment. But this network expanded and crimes were committed in 17 counties across the state. Stolen merchandise was taken across state lines, so there's a multi-state effort to this investigation as well. And the point I want to make is twofold. One, we protect Florida businesses. Our retailers out there should be confident that here in Florida, our law enforcement and our prosecutors are going to ensure that we are holding wrongdoers accountable. And if you commit crimes and try to steal from our retailers, we are going to prosecute you to the absolute fullest. We want our business community to know that in Florida we are pro-business, we are safe, and we want you to operate here free from these criminal enterprises. Second, these perpetrators combined for dozens and dozens of prior offenses. Again, yet another example, we've had so many lately, where soft on crime policies, failures to detain, early releases, lenient sentences do not work. So rest assured, every day that I'm Attorney General here in Florida, we are going to prosecute to the absolute fullest. We will give these criminal defendants a lot of time for reflection, but it will be done behind bars. I want to thank Commissioner Simpson and the Ag Law team for their leadership here, taking strong action, again, to protect our businesses. Because let's remember, these are not victimless crimes. At the end of the day, it's consumers that pay the price. When there's theft in retail stores, it ultimately leads to higher costs for security, for prices of goods, and consumers are hurt. I think many of you have probably been to California and some of the big cities where, you see the plexiglass. You can't even buy a razor without having to go unlock the plexiglass. We don't want that in Florida, not in our stores. We're not going to have shaving cream covered by plexiglass because we are going to hold wrongdoers accountable and we are going to protect our businesses. And soft on crime policies, you're not going to see those coming out of this Capitol. So I thank everybody for being here. I thank our law enforcement. I get to say several times a week publicly, and I'm proud to say it, we have the absolute best law enforcement in the country, and it's why here in Florida our crime lows continue to go further down and why we are the safest big state to raise a family. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colonel Lee Adams and the Commissioner to talk about the details of the case, and I thank everybody for being here.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. I'm Colonel Lee Adams. I'm the Director of the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services of the Agricultural Law Enforcement. The Office of Agricultural Law Enforcement is tasked with protecting Florida citizens, agricultural, and economy from criminal activity, whether that's theft, fraud, smuggling, or other threats to public service. Today, we're announcing the results of a month-long multi-agency investigation into a highly organized retail theft ring. 7 individuals have been arrested or charged for stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of smoke detectors, circuit breakers from Home Depot stores across 17 counties in the state of Florida. These were not crimes of opportunity. They were planned, coordinated thefts designed to profit from stolen goods. This successful operation would not have been possible without the cooperation of our local, state, and federal partners, including the Office of the Attorney General, Office of Statewide Prosecution, the Lake Wales Police Department, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Plant City Police Department, Polk County Sheriff's Office, and of course, Home Depot. Teamwork is how we stop criminal networks to cross county and state lines. The Office of Agricultural Law Enforcement is not just reacting to today's crimes, we're actively looking for threats on the horizon. And one of those threats is the increased smuggling of Chinese-made signal jammers into the U.S., which is up more than 830% since 2021. Signal jammers can be used to disrupt a range of radio frequencies, channels, and pose a direct threat to emergency response, law enforcement, and critical infrastructure. Signal jammers have already been used in crimes in Florida, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, Vermont, and Virginia. According to the Department of Homeland Security, illegal aliens from South America have used jammers to conduct home invasions and robberies, to disrupt calls to and among first responders. Commissioner Simpson takes this threat very seriously. Under his leadership, we're not only investigating cases like the one announced earlier, but the Commission will be proposing new legislation to combat the signal jammers to protect our first responders and keep our community safe. The bottom line is clear. If you're stealing from Florida businesses or trying to endanger our first responders, we're coming for you. Today's announcement shows what we can achieve when agencies work together. By keeping pressure on organized retail crime and staying ahead of emerging trends like signal jammers, we are protecting Florida's families, Florida's businesses, and Florida's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel, and good morning to everyone for being here. Today's announcement demonstrates the exceptional work of Florida Office of Agricultural Law Enforcement under the leadership of Colonel Adams and our many partners in this case. I want to specifically thank Attorney General James Uthmeier and his Office of Statewide Prosecution for their partnership in this case. Their leadership and expertise were essential in building the case and ensuring these criminals face justice. Our ag law agents led a months-long investigation, working hand-in-hand with local, state, and federal partners to dismantle a major organized retail crime ring. 7 career criminals have been arrested or charged for their involvement in this organized crime spree. All told, more than $800,000 in smoke detectors and circuit breakers were stolen from Home Depot across Florida. And Home Depot worked amazingly with us and our law enforcement to make this happen. This was not shoplifting. This was a coordinated multi-state criminal enterprise designed to steal and resell high-value merchandise. Organized retail crime drives up costs for every family and puts store employees and customers at risk. In Florida, we take retail theft seriously. Florida has been strengthening its laws to combat these criminals and to give law enforcement the tools they need to stop them. Sadly, too many liberal states refuse to prosecute retail theft or have weakened their laws, essentially inviting organized crimes into their communities. Here in Florida, criminals who steal from our businesses and our citizens will be held accountable. Our Office of Agricultural Law Enforcement is not only fighting today's crimes, but also scanning the horizons for tomorrow's threats. Like Colonel Adams mentioned, one of these most alarming trends we're seeing in the smuggling of Chinese-made signal jammers into the United States. These aren't harmless gadgets. These are jammers pushed by foreign adversaries against our first responders and innocent civilians. Can you imagine being the victim of a home invasion and not being able to call 911 because the burglars are using a jammer to prevent it? We're not going to let that threat stand in Florida. Federal law prohibits the use, manufacture, and sale of jammers, and Florida law only prohibits their use. Neither federal nor state law prohibits the possession of jammers. That leaves a loophole that criminals and foreign adversaries can exploit, and we're going to close it. There is no lawful reason to possess this military-grade equipment. In the upcoming 2026 Farm Bill, we're proposing to make the possession, sale, and distribution of signal jammers a state crime. This will give Florida's law enforcement agencies the authority they need to seize these devices, prosecute offenders, and prevent jammers from endangering first responders and our communities. Florida will not wait for others to act. We will take the lead to keep our people safe. We are proposing proactive steps to protect law enforcement officers, firefighters, EMTs, and the public from this dangerous technology. As always, ag law enforcement is going to be a force multiplier for our federal, state, and county law enforcement. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Tallahassee Police Chief.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here this morning. I am Chief Revell for the Tallahassee Police Department. And retail theft, it's not just about stolen merchandise. It strikes at the heart of our community. When businesses lose revenue, prices rise for everybody. Employees' hours are cut, and opportunities for growth and investment suffer. It impacts our small business owners who've poured their lives into building something for our city, and it affects the families that depend on those businesses for jobs and stability within our community. This is why collaboration is so important. No single agency can tackle this issue alone. By working alongside the Attorney General's office and our law enforcement partners across the region, we're sending a very clear message. That message is organized retail theft and career criminals targeting our businesses will not be tolerated. Our community deserves to feel safe shopping, working, and investing here in Tallahassee and throughout our state. Together, we're committed to protecting local businesses, strengthening our economy, and ensuring that those who exploit our community are held accountable. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief Revell. Next, we'll hear from Lorena from the Florida Retail Federation. I want to thank them for the work. The legislature passed and the governor signed a gift card retail theft bill this past year. There are sophisticated people out there. I didn't realize how prevalent it was, but it was quite prevalent, that are going and manipulating gift cards in stores. So when you go and activate it, ultimately the funds are released to them and not to you. This problem became, such an prolific thing that we needed to increase penalties, give our prosecutors more tools to ensure that these people are held accountable. So thank you for the work on that. And I hope we can do another retail bill this coming year.
Thank you. My name is Lorena Hawley. I'm the Vice President and General Counsel of the Florida Retail Federation. On behalf of over 270,000 retailers in the state of Florida, I'd like to thank General Uthmeier and Commissioner Simpson for their continued leadership in the fight against organized retail crime. And as has been discussed, to be clear, we're not talking about petty theft or a random act of shoplifting. We are fighting operations that are increasingly sophisticated and often violent, and that threaten both retailers and consumers, and in turn, threaten and lead to more dangerous crimes such as human trafficking and illicit drug sales. Our retailers are investing over $1 million a year to protect our employees, our consumers, and our products. And without the help of the support from the governor, the legislature, and these critical agencies, this could not be done. General Uthmeier, I would also like to thank you for your continued support of the Florida Organized Retail Crime Exchange. Through this collaborative partnership, Florida can continue to lead the way and fight organized retail crime. Thank you.
All All right, and thanks to Home Depot for having some representatives here today. Hopefully we get through hurricane season and don't have to do an event in your store, but it's been a great partnership. We appreciate your efforts to help us, push for law and order. So Tyson, I'll let you come up.
Good morning and thank you. At the Home Depot, combating organized retail crime is more than just about our bottom line. It's about protecting the safety of our customers, our associates, and our communities. I'd first like to thank, with gratitude, the partnership of the Office of Agriculture and Law Enforcement, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Lake Wales Police Department, and Polk County Sheriff's Office, and the Office of Statewide Prosecution for their assistance. We know that ORC is a large-scale, multi-jurisdictional criminal activity that is carefully choreographed. It's crime for greed, not for need. We're thankful for the work of Attorney General Uthmeier and the entire Florida Attorney General's office commitment to investigating these serious crimes and holding offenders accountable. As we approach the holidays, we also want to thank the legislator, Attorney General, and the governor for passing the gift card fraud bill, which is another helpful tool in tracking these serious crimes. We are proud to be a part of the solution to this growing challenge for communities across the country. Thank you.
And I think it's important to highlight, as was mentioned, when we are involved in many of these cases, we see close ties to the open border. People don't realize how expansive the crime coming in at the southern border has become into local communities. And more often than not, there's a tie between retail theft and some larger form of trafficking, narcotics, et cetera. So thankfully, we've shut down the border. Florida continues to lead on immigration enforcement. One of these gentlemen now that has been arrested is a green card holder. That card, I assume, very soon will be revoked. At the end of the day, having a green card is not a right, it's a privilege. And if you're going to take advantage of that privilege and then hurt our citizens, break our laws, we will take that away. Thanks to our statewide prosecutor, Brad McVeigh, and his team, we'll turn it over to you guys to get the job done. Thanks again to law enforcement for putting your necks on the line every single day. I know we're tight on time today, so if there's any follow-up questions about the case, please reach out to our offices. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier wrapping up a news conference where we heard from several officials there talking about a number of arrests. 7 people arrested, accused in an organized retail theft ring that was hitting 17 different counties across the state of Florida. $800,000 worth of merchandise taken from Home Depot stores in those 17 counties, specifically smoke detectors and circuit breakers. This was a month-long investigation that they talked about not being a crime of opportunity. This is a group of people who knew what they were doing, according to investigators. And they also talked about the danger of signal jammers that they found, saying they will be working to propose legislation in this upcoming session that would ban the possession, sale, and distribution of signal jammers. Right now, they said they are illegal to use, but there is a little bit of a loophole, and so wanting to close that gap by banning the possession, sale, and distribution of signal jammers here in the state of Florida. You heard the Ag Commissioner saying these aren't harmless gadgets. This is military-grade equipment. Well, we're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We still have a lot to get to. When we come back, we're going to talk all about Hurricane Imelda, so keep it right here on Fox 35 News Plus. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, we're feeling the effects of now Hurricane Imelda.
Absolutely, Garrett. The hurricane is more than 200 miles away, but we're still under its direct influence of its cyclonic counterclockwise flow. And in fact, not only do we have Imelda, we also have Umberto. It's less than 500 miles away, and these two systems are actually interacting with each other. And in doing so, Umberto's departure is going to pull Imelda out to sea. So it's a wonderful thing as far as our forecast goes with this, but we do have to deal with and contend with what will be some really rough seas for about the next week. Today it'll be by far the roughest. We've got a lot of wave action there. The tide is going out, but it's actually going to come back for a high tide today at the beaches shortly before 3 p.m. Now we're going to see a high tide at Daytona Beach at 2:40 p.m. and then another high tide overnight at 3 a.m. So we've got a couple more high tides of note because, well, since this is basically low tide, can you picture the water coming all the way up? It's going to move all the way up to the seawalls and the dunes, and there could be some significant coastal erosion in some beach communities, especially where there's been a recent beach nourishment project where they bring in that coarse sand from offshore and put it on the beach to try and shore things up. Unfortunately, a lot of that can be pulled out in short order. We've got an extreme rip current risk with waves breaking at 6 to 10 feet, northeast winds at 25. Needless to say, you got to stay out of the water. Even surfers would get worked trying to get out there today. It is a workout trying to get past the break. You got to be a really experienced waterman to get out there safely. 60% chance of storms today and 82 degrees. Here's a view from the port where the wind is blowing there as well. Surfing conditions will improve later this week as these systems move out, but look at we're calling it a hurricane hoedown. It's just like a square dance where you do-si-do with your partner and spin around. That's what's happening with Umberto and Imelda. But in this case, Imelda is not going to be very nice to her partner. In fact, Imelda is so strong compared to Umberto at this point that the hot, dry air expended from Imelda will get pulled into Umberto and essentially kill the storm, leaving behind just some lingering moisture that'll be absorbed by Imelda as it passes by Bermuda. So Umberto probably has another day or two to live before it's just indistinguishable from the flow. And then Imelda, as still a hurricane at that point, will absorb the moisture. It won't get any stronger. It'll just be a little bit more moisture-laden, heavier rain possibly, and zip out toward Europe. So that said, here's the latest on Imelda. Category 1 forecast to potentially become a Category 2 as it passes by Bermuda. Also on that track, you can see Umberto, that like faded sort of grayish, yellowish cone to the north. So they're going to be like on top of each other as these all head out to sea. Bermuda is under hurricane watch. For us, we've got this high surf advisory continuing today. Dangerous, if not deadly, rip currents. It is critically stay out of the water. Unfortunately, we had a tourist, 51-year-old man from out of town, drowned at Volusia County beaches over the weekend, and that was directly from those waves. Coastal erosion possible at times at high tide, gusty winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour. And a look at the radar, we've had bands of rain coming in, mostly at our beaches, and it's under these rain bands that we've caught some of our higher wind gusts approaching 40 miles an hour. For most of us today, we'll have winds gusting about 20 to 25 miles per hour. Intermittent showers through the day, about a 40% chance for rain. Not going to rain all day. It'll just be one of those days where you get a couple of showers that blow in and blow out just as quickly. Now, in the big picture, this is important. As these two hurricanes move out, they're going to drag behind it a cold front that'll move in for later this week. That's going to stall over Florida, becoming what's called a stationary front, as demarcated by the red and the blue, and then very slowly drift northward. Now, along this front, we're going to have leftover moisture from Imelda that is going to get pulled into central Florida, and especially on our Atlantic coast, result in what could be some copious rain totals. It's kind of a sleeper system, a leftover remnant of this tropical system, a sleeper system in that it hasn't been highly advertised, right? It's just pretty much come up as something that's a potential, if not now a likelihood. And in fact, looking ahead at the rainfall over the next 5 to 7 days, this is going to be through Sunday, we could have at the coastline between 5 and 7 inches of rain additionally compared to what we've had as of now. So tomorrow will be kind of dry, and then we're back to the rain chances as we head into the weekend. In Orlando, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches, and there's going to be a sharp gradient where maybe we don't get as much rain inland. But Thursday especially could be really rainy on the coast. So we'll have to watch that. This is a definitely uncertain forecast. Usually in these situations, you get more rain than you think you're going to get. So 40% chance today, windy. Imelda moving out. We get a break in the action tomorrow. The wave action, the waves, the beaches, all dangerous through the weekend with 10-foot waves breaking through the weekend. But for surfers, at least it'll be a lot cleaner. It won't be this washing machine effect. And other than that, we're going to get back to the rain chances, increasing with that system through next week. So Garrett, we are not done with the rainy season yet, but I will tell you what is done, my earpiece. So with that said, I'm going to toss it right back to you.
All right, Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
I can hear you now. Appreciate it. Pleasure's mine, Garrett. Hope you have a good one. See you tomorrow. And
here's a live look at Daytona Beach right now from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. You can see the impacts that some of the communities along the coast are having today. Brooks talked about it a little bit, and the threat of erosion as well along the coast. Fox 35's Amanda Ruiz has been in Volusia County at Daytona Beach today, and she had more this morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, the rain is coming down. This is the heaviest I've seen it over the last 2 days, it coming down here in Daytona Beach. And they just closed down the beach ramp. Usually cars can drive down and they can drive on the beach, but the tide is just too high right now. And I want to show you just how high the water has come up. You can see the beach debris and these little plants here. That was because the water came flooding through to this area past these gates. And just look at the water right now. It is rough. All these rip currents and everything that's happening right now. You could just see far off just how the waves are crashing all the way back there, and then they're coming forward, and then the high tide. It's just not water that you want to get in at the moment. That's what officials are urging you. They're urging you, whether you're a great swimmer, great surfer, you should not be getting in this water because it's dangerous. I mean, Volusia County beach officials have saved 13 people over the weekend before this even storm came through, and then a 51-year-old man passed away because he drowned in this water. And these waters are just getting worse by the minute, so it's best to stay out of here. More different conditions that you can experience is also going to be coastal flooding, high tides, rip currents, so it's just not water that you want to get into. Now, we were told by beach cruise officials that they left because it is just getting too harsh and there's nothing for them to do here. You can still come down here, but it's still very discouraged. And we talked to some residents and they told us that even though these conditions are really bad at the moment, they say they're thankful it can't be worse.
Honestly, it feels amazing.
Yeah, the wind's real nice. It's not raining too hard. We just got dinner and decided to take a little walk on the beach. It's not too bad.
Okay so far, not too bad. Just a little bit of wind and that's it.
And those interviews that you just heard were from yesterday. Right now, we're not seeing anybody walk on the beach. We've seen a few people here and there, but right now people are avoiding it at all costs. I mean, it's not beach weather right now, so they're not coming out here. So again, stay out of this water no matter what. It's just not safe, these waves, and these conditions are going to go until tomorrow, so you want to stay away from that beach until then. Reporting in Volusia County, Amanda Ruiz, Fox 35 News.
We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A group of more than 24 Florida cities and counties are suing over the state's new SB 180 law. This was a law that was passed this past session that was designed to facilitate recovery and rebuilding after hurricanes. But in the weeks since it was passed, we've also learned of some other impact of it, including in Orange County, where their comprehensive plan was essentially struck down, and a number of other localities as well, seeing moratoriums, land development regulations put on hold or struck down because of the impact of this law. So joining us live now via Zoom is Jamie Cole, who's an attorney who is representing these municipalities that are challenging SB 180. And Jamie, we appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Nice to be here, Garrett.
Hey, Jamie, so first of all, just to kind of break down the argument that you and your clients are making in the complaint that you filed in Leon County Court.
Certainly. SB 180 is the largest intrusion into home rule authority in Florida since the 1968 Constitution was adopted. The whole idea of home rule authority back in the 50s and 60s, the problem was that we had all this development coming into Florida and all these people were coming, and there was really no local control. So the Constitution was amended so that local governments, cities and counties would have far more control over development within their own borders. This SB 180 represents like I said, the largest intrusion into that home rule authority that we've seen. And basically, it was initially supposed to be a bill, as you had mentioned, that was to help people rebuild after a hurricane. Unfortunately, at the last minute, it was amended, and there was a provision added that says that any local government, counties and cities, cannot adopt any local land development regulations that will burden or hinder development, even if it has nothing to do with a hurricane. And that is very problematic. And as you mentioned, in various counties and cities, they're finding that just normal things that they really need to do just to respond to situations that are local in nature, they're not able to do. And that is going to cause so many problems over the next several years.
Why is this an issue for the clients that you're representing, these municipalities? What problems are they running into? What are they seeing?
Well, pretty much they are unable to really do anything when it comes to situations that come up. So if there's a problem that arises in a city and they really feel that they need to do something, they might need to change heights or change densities or even do minor things like changing parking requirements. They're not able to do any of those things. And under Florida law, they're required to have a comprehensive plan. And under the comprehensive plan, they're supposed to have flexibility so that as changing circumstances occur, they're able to change the laws. That flexibility is so important. But now when there's changing circumstances and they try to change their comprehensive plan, the state, the Commerce Department is saying, no, you can't change it. You have to keep everything exactly how it is, which really makes very little sense.
We've heard from a number of challenges and pushback against the state when it comes to criticisms over them kind of overruling local governments in several different ways. Why do you say the state does not have the authority in this case?
Well, under the Constitution, the state does have authority to preempt cities. But in order to do so, they have to do it clearly and unambiguously. The problem here, one of the problems here, and there's many, but one of the problems here is that what they did is they just said that cities and counties can't pass anything that hinders or burdens development, but they don't define hinder, they don't define burden, they don't define how it's supposed to be applied. And that, under existing case law, means that preemption is invalid. In addition, there are several technical defects that they did. For example, there's a provision in the Florida Constitution that says laws can only deal with one subject. And the subject here was dealing with emergencies. The problem is they added this provision that has nothing to do with emergencies. So the law has two subjects, and that's not allowed. The title is defective. The title says it only applies to certain counties. In fact, it applies to every single county and also applies to every city within every county. So the title itself to the law was defective. There's a constitutional provision that prohibits unfunded mandates unless the legislature makes certain findings. This bill forces cities and counties to spend a material amount of money, and the legislature never made the finding that they have to find. And I could go on. There's about six various defects in this law that we think are very important.
Do you think lawmakers knew the full ramifications of this when this was passed?
You know, it's unclear whether they did, and some legislators have told me they really did not. I mean, everyone voted for it. I think there was like one vote no. And they were voting for a bill to deal with recovery after hurricanes. That's what they were dealing with. And even when you listen to the comments by the governor and the sponsor of the legislation, they all talk about that. They say this bill is necessary because it was necessary to help people recover after hurricanes. The problem is the bill doesn't just do that. You know, the bill, as a result of whatever influences at the last minute, was changed, and it does not limit itself to recovery after hurricanes. Now, there is a legitimate policy debate as to whether or not, you know, local governments should be able to have stricter rules after a hurricane. Now, I will tell you that in South Florida, where I'm located, we had a bad hurricane back in '92, Hurricane Andrew. And what we learned from Hurricane Andrew was that our building code wasn't strict enough for the types of Category 5 hurricanes that we had to face. So they made those rules stricter. That would not be allowed under SB 180. You could not, a local government could not say, we've learned from a hurricane and therefore we need to have stricter rules. So there's a legitimate debate and there's two sides to that. But the problem is this bill goes further. This bill is not limited to recovery after hurricanes. This bill says local governments can't do really anything for land development that hinders or burdens development, whatever that means. So really, you know, local government is the closest to the people, and it's really most responsive to the needs in a community. And this makes it impossible for local governments to do that. And it even goes back retroactively to August 1, 2024. So any laws that restricted or burdened development from August 1, 24 to now are void ab initio, as if they never existed, which just creates chaos as to what that means for projects that were approved during that time period or not approved.
This bill's sponsor has been asked about some of these impacts, and you know, it sounds like there's a chance that the lawmakers kind of look in this upcoming session to clean up some of these things. But we're in hurricane season right now, and we know the tropics are busy. There's a couple systems out there now, and probably more to come, if we're being honest. If, God forbid, there were to be major impacts from a hurricane in the next month or so here in Florida, what would there be impacts of this on localities trying to rebuild and recover and implement some things in the aftermath of a storm?
Yeah, there's various impacts, but one of them would be that cities or counties wouldn't be able to do really anything to protect the community from recurring mistakes. So let's just assume for a minute that there was a community, and as a result of a hurricane, there's a terrible flooding in one area. And the city says, look, it doesn't make any sense to rebuild properties in that area unless you're going to put them higher up from the ground. So we want all new properties, when you replace them, we want you to do them 4 or 5 feet higher so that they won't flood. It just makes sense. It's common sense that you might want to do that. It may cost a little bit more to do the development because you're going to have to build it up a little. But for resiliency and as we have, you know, climate change, it makes no sense to just ignore situations and just let people rebuild exactly how it was. And that's what cities and counties would be forced to do.
Jamie, what's the next step in this? If you could just kind of walk us through the process and what we can expect going forward here.
Right, so the lawsuit has been filed. We still haven't served it on the state officials, which will be the next step. And we do plan on going to the judge and asking for an early hearing on an injunction to try to get at least some temporary relief while we litigate it. And that will also give time to the legislature in the session early next year, hopefully, to address this problem. I have to think that at least a large number of legislators didn't realize how far this went. And, there are, like I said, legitimate debates as to whether or not, cities and what cities should do after a hurricane. But this just goes so far beyond that. I mean, this isn't limited to hurricanes, and that's really the biggest problem with this.
Jamie Cole, an attorney representing these 25 Florida municipalities challenging the legality of SB 180. We appreciate your time, and thanks for talking with us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you, Garrett.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Let me give you a live look right now of the White House in Washington, D.C., where we are still standing by and do still expect the president to speak shortly from the Oval Office, making some sort of announcement there. We don't know exactly what that might be, but we are seeing reporting from the Wall Street Journal that Trump is expected to be joined by the Pfizer CEO today to unveil a direct-to-consumer website for Americans to buy medications from, and it would be called Crump RX. So again, unsure what his remarks might be coming up in the Oval Office at this hour, but we do expect that to be at some point in the near future. Meanwhile, I can give you a live look at the U.S. Capitol, where negotiations are ongoing as the countdown is on, just over 12 hours away now from what would be a government shutdown. We talked about this yesterday with Congressman Randy Fine, a Republican from Florida's 6th Congressional District, and we also know that President Trump met yesterday with congressional leaders. There did not appear to be a whole lot that came out of that, and so it appears that at this point, unless something changes, we are heading for a federal government shutdown. Also, breaking news right now, I can give you a live look at Joint Base McGuire in New Hanover, New Jersey, that is currently under lockdown. Seeing reporting from Fox News that there is a report of an active shooter there. We don't have a lot of details at this time. These are aerial views, again, from WTXF, a live look in New Hanover, New Jersey. Joint Base McGuire currently on lockdown there after reports of an active shooter. So we'll keep monitoring that situation as well. A lot to watch as we near the noon hour here on Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us here today. This afternoon, one of the things that we are keeping a close eye on is the Orange County Public Schools board meeting, where a multi-million-dollar deal is on the line for a historic property in Eatonville. We're talking about the Hungerford property, and Dr. Phillips Charities is looking to buy that land from OCPS. But as Fox 35's Marley Capper reports, that idea is controversial.
Well, this could be a very big step for Eatonville, but some people on the council are not on board with the proposal that the Dr. Phillips Charities has proposed and brought to the table. So let's kind of break things down. They say the mayor should have allowed the rest of the council to weigh in and be more involved in the process. The mayor has said she did not have the authority to do so and has apologized for offending anybody. Mayor Angie Gardner says that they've zeroed in on a multi-million-dollar deal with the Orange County Public Schools and the Dr. Phillips Charities to reclaim the Hungerford property.
There was no deal. I don't have that authority, and I didn't cross those boundaries, but I do understand how they are offended. So for that, I do apologize.
So this is a historic land, 117 acres, and it was the former home of Hungerford School. It was a pillar of the community when it was first founded. And so the Dr. Phillips Center is looking at a few different things. Some people on the council, wish that they would have been able to kind of put their ideas on the table. So who knows what this land will officially be like? That will be determined later and voted on, but it could become a space for town events or a community hub. It could be an early learning center, a museum, potentially a healthcare facility. So they're going to be talking about things around 2 p.m. this afternoon. Hopefully by 5 p.m. is when the public comments are going to happen, and hopefully leading to a vote. So we'll bring you guys updates on air and online as soon as they're available. But for now, we'll send things back to you.
All right. So again, that the 2 o'clock work session, and then some more discussion and a final vote later today. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. President Donald Trump holding this news conference now in the Oval Office. You see he's joined by Dr. Oz. You see RFK Jr. behind him. We know the Pfizer CEO here as well. And let's go ahead and listen in as the President speaks from the Oval Office, making this announcement alongside the CEO of Pfizer.
Minutes that are incredible. For many years, Americans have paid the highest prices anywhere in the world for
prescription drugs. They paid far more, 10 times, 13 times, 15 times more than other countries for the exact same product. A major reason is that the American consumers have been subsidizing research and development costs for the entire planet. They put all of that on us, and yet they were the beneficiaries too. So it's being changed as of today. The United States at just 4% of the world's population and consumers, only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the United States. So think of that. We have 4% of the market, 13% of prescription drugs, and yet, Albert, I didn't know you were that violent. I'm surprised you're agreeing to this.
I'm getting better.
No, he's doing the right thing. Thank you. And yet they make 75% of their profits from the American customers, so it's something. That's why I signed an executive order combating this practice, and we signed it very happily a little while ago. Today, Pfizer is committing, as will other drug companies as we go through the weeks. But Pfizer is truly one of the biggest in the world and one of the greatest in the world. Today, Pfizer is committing to offer all of their prescription medications to Medicaid, and it will be at the most favored nation's prices. It's going to have a huge impact on bringing Medicaid costs down like nothing else. I told you that in my first term, I was so proud of the fact that for the first time in 28 years, drug prices came down. And I had a news conference that I explained it was 0.1%, but it was down. And here we're talking about, in one case, over 1,000%. This is a critical step forward to our work and to improve health care, and hardworking, low-income Americans, especially low-income Americans, will be helped so greatly. In addition, Pfizer is agreeing to provide some of their most popular current medications to all consumers at heavily discounted prices of anywhere between 50 and even 100%, and that's off the price. And in some cases, even more than that. These drugs will be available for direct purchase online at a website operated by the federal government. We're also announcing that moving forward, all new medications introduced by Pfizer to the American market will be sold at the reduced most favored nation costs. So we'll be paying essentially what other countries are paying, who have been much lower, much lower for many, many years. Furthermore, Pfizer will invest $70 billion to reshore domestic manufacturing facilities. In other words, they're going to bring a lot of their facilities to make their drugs and make what they make, their product. They're going to make it in the United States. I appreciate that $70 billion investment and fund research and development right here in America. We're working with other major pharmaceutical companies to secure similar agreements. Everyone understands that the status quo where Americans pay more for drugs, prescription drugs, and they pay more than foreign countries who take advantage of us in many other ways, although not so many anymore. I think we've pretty well got that stopped, right? I think so. We've stopped that, but they took advantage of a lot of other presidents, that I can tell you. But we're making this pay to be very unacceptable, what they've done in the past. That's why my administration is also taking historic action to investigate the unfair and discriminatory trade practices of other countries that extort our pharmaceutical makers to shift costs onto the American consumer. They say, no, give us a price, a very low price, and just charge the American consumer, charge it to the U.S. The United States is done subsidizing the health care of the rest of the world. It's a big thing. I can't tell you how big this is. And I was all set to go on a first term, but then you had the COVID, and we had to focus on that. But I said, I want to get back here because this is, you're talking about 14, 15, 1,600% reductions in some cases. But by taking this bold step, we're ending the era of global price gouging at the expense of American families, and we're making America healthy again, which is our little theme for the people behind me. And I want to just ask Secretary Kennedy to come up, and we'll start, and we'll go through it with Oz and Klump and Burla and McCary, and we'll go through it, and if you have any questions. But this is a really big announcement. This is something that most people said was not doable. And other countries are going along because we told them that if you don't go along, they didn't have to go along, but if they didn't go along, we were going to put extra tariffs on those countries, and we were going to charge them the amount of money that they should be paying for the reduction in costs. So I think we had a pretty good negotiating position. So, Bobby, I'd like you to speak about this, and what a great job, and thank you very much.
I want to start by thanking a couple of people who aren't up here, Theo Merkel, Dr. Heidi Overton, who played key roles in this negotiation and helped make this happen. And also Inma Hernandez, who's not up here, but John Brook and Chris Crump, who were the people who were negotiating, in some cases, I think including last night, 24 hours without any sleep. This would not have happened without President Trump's leadership. I told my son last night, we're all under secrecy about this, but I told my son late last night, a 27-year-old son, Connor, who's a very liberal Democrat, and I told him this was happening, and he just paused for a minute, and he said, "Thank you, Dad, I'm so proud of you." Because this is something Democrats have wanted for 20 years, Republicans have wanted for 20 years. Everybody said they're going to do it. Nobody has even taken a step towards doing it. And the reason was because it was such a daunting task. And, you know, even all of the negotiators, you see, I also want to thank Howard Lutnick. This would not have happened without him. But even all of the negotiators here and all the people on at HHS and at the White House team, all we could see was all the reasons that this couldn't happen. Everybody had tried. Nobody could make it happen. And it was President Trump alone who, with his doggedness, his persistence, he saw this clearly in a way that none of us other, in its most simplest terms. Why are we spending more on this country than any other country? Why are we spending 75% of the revenues that come to the pharmaceutical industry? We're doing all the research, and everybody else is riding on our slipstream. And President Trump, I would say, harangued and harassed us to make this happen. I was getting calls at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. "Oh, are you asleep? And you got to get MFN done." And at one point, Dr. Oz told me, "I can't take the president's calls anymore." I have a lot of reasons. My wife has a lot of reasons to say to me about different things that happen in my life. Doesn't that give you anxiety? And I say, I don't get anxiety. This gave me anxiety. Oh, thank you, President Trump. It would not have happened without your leadership. This is real leadership. It's a president who has a vision and makes that vision happen. And I can't think of any other president of the United States who could have done this in our history. I'm very grateful to you. This is an extraordinary benefit to the American people. Thank you for your vision, President Trump, your bold action, your unwavering commitment to health and well-being of the American people. Never has a president stood up so bravely for the American people with respect to health care. And by the way, I forgot to thank Albert Burla. Albert and I have had a long history of antipathy and antagonism toward each other. But I have to say his leadership in this took tremendous courage. And he really created a template for corporate responsibility, for putting public health ahead of his individual interests. So I'm very, very grateful to you for that, Albert. Under the leadership of President Trump, the U.S. government is now acting as a tough negotiator on behalf of the American people. Today is about fairness, it's about equality, it's about giving hope to those who are trying to stay healthy, who are managing illness, and who are fighting for their lives. We refuse to make the most vulnerable citizens continue to pay an unthinkable price for the world's pharmaceutical breakthroughs, which we pay for. This policy is a shield for the chronically ill who have carried the burden of high drug costs for far too long. It's a signal to every American family that we're finally putting their health and financial security first. And it sets a new standard, one that says we won't write blank checks to the drug industry any longer. No family should ever be forced to choose between filling a prescription and putting food on the table. Americans should not be gouged paying 300 or 400 or 1,000% more than people in other countries for the exact same drug, many times manufactured in the same factory in New Jersey and sold in Great Britain for 1/10 the price that it's being sold for here. This weekend, I was with some friends up in Martha's Vineyard, and an old friend, one of my oldest friends, his wife and daughter have a chronic disease. And that chronic disease last year cost $150,000 to treat. And the mother had to choose whether she was going to take that money and spend it on her or her daughter. And she spent it on her daughter. So she had to make that choice. It's a choice that no mother should have to make. We did a roundtable recently on drug prices. One patient spent more than $180,000 on one drug. One cashed in all of her savings and worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. One almost quit her job and moved to Germany to get the drug cheaper. Some looked at getting the drug on unsafe secondary markets because they could not afford it through the legitimate markets. Today, we begin to right that ship. For the mother trying to help her child get better, for a grandmother at the pharmacy counter, and for millions of Americans who want to restore their health. Today is about another promise made by President Trump and another promise kept by President Trump to the American people. And it's only just the beginning. This is all thanks to your unwavering leadership, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There is a fine line between vision and hallucination. People have to follow you for it to be a vision. And President Trump, you made a lot of people following you, an idea that most people thought was not possible, even remotely. And when we have that shared vision, and I'll speak to some of the people who are involved in this process because it was incredible effort that gives me great pride to serve in this administration. And the fact that it did not leak is also an issue of pride for us because these were tough challenges. And Albert Bourla looks very calm up here and cat-like, but he is ferocious when you get him in a negotiating room. This is true for all the pharmaceutical companies that we are negotiating with. And Secretary Kennedy, my son Oliver, who I told about this deal as we was walking over here, is a Republican. And you know what he said? Thank you for making us proud. Because it's not just a Democratic problem, it's a Republican problem. This has not happened before. And it took a crusader like President Trump, with the support of Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Lutnick, I see the vice presidents here as well, just unwavering, dogged pursuit of change. And now I have to admit that I know the president has me on speed dial, and most of the time when he would call me, as Secretary Kennedy alluded to, it was about MFN, and he always had reasons why we needed to go faster and why people were being hurt today because we're allowing the kinds of pricing that had been tolerated for so many decades in America. The time of the day didn't matter, the day of the week didn't matter, and that's how the president was functioning. This was such an important part of what he saw as his legacy, which is why it brings such pride to all of us up here and many others to deliver it. And the laser focus that the president had on this, which he shared with me the day that I was nominated, that he nominated me for this position and has reminded me frequently since, made it a top priority for us as well at CMS. Now, to do this, you have to have tactics, not just vision, but tactics. And the first tactic the president shared was to introduce me to Albert Bourla. He took us to dinner with Secretary Kennedy, and he argued, and he's a great deal maker, as you know, that if you're going to make a deal of this scope, of this nature, you need trust. So the president lit the kindling, he got the embers going, but he needed us to nurture that beginning of a fire so they would blaze into what today we can announce as the grand deal, one of the greatest ever, certainly in the space of pharmaceuticals. I gained to respect Albert, and I'll tell you why in particular. It was because he recognized the dangerous problems facing so many Americans, that they had to choose between taking medications prescribed by their doctor that could be life-saving or shopping at the grocery store, paying for their kids a fundamentally important need that would be squeezed out because they couldn't compromise on drugs, or often worse, they compromise on the drugs. 1/3 of all prescriptions are not filled in the pharmacy because of this. We talked through the winter. We talked through the spring. We talked through the summer. And we got nowhere. We stalled. The industry is powerful. They're important. They have smart people. There's no reason for them to give the numbers that the president is articulating today. And you see these numbers on the charts around us. These are massive wins for the American people. But the president in July demanded, after the executive order, that manufacturers make a firm commitment and to lower prices or else. And it sent shockwaves through the industry. It got the ball rolling again. Our talks with Albert heated up, but it wasn't until last week if you want an inside story, it wasn't until last week that we made a major breakthrough. And our hardworking team embarked on a remarkable story that I think books will be written about, 24/7, nonstop, with industry, with Albert, with his great team at Pfizer. And with this partnership, we began to deal with the fundamental challenges we have, which is protecting medical advances for the future while at the same time securing the prices Americans want today. We're going to continue to stimulate and strengthen innovation. That's what a great country does, and we are a great country with a great leader. We're going to protect the U.S. hegemony in R&D. We dominate the planet in discovering cures for illnesses. All those orphan ailments, all those remarkable advances, they come from research labs here with companies like Pfizer and other great ones in the pharmaceutical space. We're going to lead in the life sciences. We're going to lead in ideas. And we're going to make sure that we do all that while we're being fair to the American people, especially our most vulnerable. We're going to finally deliver on the fair drug prices that President Trump has been speaking about for 2 terms. We're going to celebrate this historic day, I predict, this historic day in the medical field for generations to come. The heroic negotiators that I do feel compelled to mention, and Secretary Kennedy kindly also mentioned their names. Some of them can't be in here because they're busy negotiating future deals. Inma Hernandez-Delso, John Brooks, who's a deputy administrator of mine, Theo Merkel, who is in the back and tall and hard to miss with DPC, and Corey Insulin with the same group did a spectacular job, and Don Dempsey at OMB. Just wonderful human beings, worked tirelessly to get this done. We were able to secure this first MFN deal, and the president touched on this, but we have much more to come. You'll be hearing breaking news from the president for the rest of the fall. And Mr. President, these brilliant minds are here because of you. Now, I don't want to just pay homage to this. I want to actually speak this a little bit. The passion to protect the American people brings top-tier Americans into the government. We've created a powerful administration with the president's leadership, an administration of winners. People get things done. They see the generational opportunity to fix the biggest problems our nation faces. And the person who led this negotiation, Chris Crump, embodies this seal. Now, Chris Crump came to visit Secretary Kennedy and I the very first day we were looking for staff to try to bring in the government. And neither of us really had an idea of how challenging this might be. And he came to the interview, and we knew that he had built a business that was worth several $100 million. And the secretary, very poker-faced as he tends to be, looked at him and said, "Are you willing to give it all up and move your family to Washington?" A young family, 4 young children, beautiful wife. "Are you willing to come across the country and serve our nation, serve this president to ensure vital programs like Medicare, which he runs, will keep our seniors healthy for years to come?" He gave it all up, like so many have in this administration, passionate to follow the president's lead and serve under Secretary Kennedy. And for those of you at home who are watching, and I hope there are quite a few, I think this shows just how cool a place it is to work, is in this government. And I take great pride in handing the ball to Chris. Chris, tell the American people what they have won thanks to your passionate ability to deliver on President Trump's promise.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Mr. President. You have enabled something that as recently as last night, nearly everyone has said was impossible. And Secretary Kennedy and Administrator Oz, thank you for having trust in us as a negotiating team to drive this forward on behalf of the American people. It is an absolute honor and privilege. And Mr. Borla, to you and to the team at Pfizer, you have taken a step that I think few appreciate, requires a level of courage to change something that for decades administrations have tried. And there was no incentive rationally for you to do, and yet you've done it because you recognized the opportunity to align your economic interest with the social interest of the American people, and we're grateful. Today is historic, as it's been discussed. This is a major win in the battle for affordable health care and affordable drugs. As the president said, on average, we pay nearly 3 times what the rest of the wealthy world pays for branded pharmaceuticals. And yet we drive more than 50% of global R&D, 50% of revenues, nearly 70% of profits. It's unjust. It's morally unjust. And when this happens, we stifle innovation and we limit access for the most vulnerable people across the planet and in America who need these medications. And so the president directed us to make deals. That's what he does, and it's what we do. And all great deals, and this is a great deal, are rooted in principles. And this deal was rooted in the principle of fairness. Now, the president could have directed us to go to the poorest country on the planet and find the cheapest price for every single drug and bring that back to the United States and use the might of the government to insist that that's the price we pay. And that might have worked, actually, for just a little bit. But very quickly, it would have utterly destroyed innovation in pharmaceuticals. It would have destroyed American primacy in building life-saving medications. There are nearly 20,000 known diseases on the planet. We have treatments or cures for far fewer than 10% of them. So that would have been a bad strategy, and it would have limited access to those who need those medications the most. But he didn't call for that. He didn't call for 50% lower than the lowest price on the planet. What he called for was fairness. And that's a powerful principle, because we all grow up wanting to be on the right side of fair. And it allowed us to do what has not been done before, which is to call on manufacturers and ask them to be fair, and allows us to go to countries and ask them to pay their fair share in the battle against global disease. And that is the unlock for this great deal. Now, it's my privilege to talk just for a few minutes about the details of the deal. First, let's start with the definition of MFN. What do we mean by that? This is not made-up list prices that have often been quoted in prior administrations, stuffed with fees and rebates. We're talking about we start at net prices, after fees, after rebates, the prices people actually pay here, the prices people actually pay in other wealthy countries. We then index to a basket of countries, wealthy countries, need it most. And this is a powerful commitment. The fourth principle is around shared savings. As our commerce colleagues and as our U.S. trade representative colleagues succeed in encouraging other countries to pay more for existing medications, a portion of that will go to fund additional R&D. And a portion of that will repatriate back to the United States to offset prices, lower prices further for Americans on those existing drugs. And the fifth principle, as discussed, with hats off to Secretary Lutnick and Ambassador Jameson Greer from U.S. Trade, is about Pfizer committing to onshore 100% of the value of all imports that it currently imports to the United States, thus ensuring that we seal our great American resurgence. If you're watching this right now and you have been looking for evidence that this is a president who knows and cares about you, who is fighting for you, who is fighting for every American, this is Exhibit A. This is not an empty promise. It's not platitudes. It's not lacking a plan. These are hard contracts with teeth, lowering prices now that we will all feel. These are the most significant, historical, substantive, mathematically quantified price reductions in the history of our country and modern-day pharmaceuticals. I cannot thank you enough for your leadership in enabling this to happen. It is an absolute pleasure. The president has showed us that the impossible can be achieved, and that is what's happened today. God bless America. With that in mind, It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer.
Mr. President, what an honor to be here today in this office to announce a landmark agreement. I think it's an historic day.
Is this the coolest office? He has a beautiful office, but the Oval is the coolest, right? What do you think?
I think by far. And I have seen other presidents' offices. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's good office.
Yeah. So it's an historic day because I think today we are turning the tide and we are reversing an unfair situation. For years, other rich nations refused to pay the fair share for the medical innovation. And as a result, Americans had to assume disproportional cost on their shoulders. This situation, we all knew, is not sustainable. This situation is a situation that many wanted to change, but no one could. This is changing today with this agreement. In July, the President sent to me and other heads of pharmaceutical companies a letter. And over there, he articulated 4 specific requests. These requests, it was obvious to us, were designed to lower drug cost in the America in different ways, each one of them. And altogether, holistically, to have synergistic effect in the impact that that will have in the US healthcare cost and patients. With this deal that we signed today, we satisfied all 4 of President's requests, all 4. The big winner of this deal clearly will be the American patient. There is no doubt about it. They are the ones that will see significant impact in their ability to buy medicines. But I would argue that it is not the only winner. I think who else is a winner here? It is American innovation and American economy. In our industry, we had 2 major overhangs that have substantially reduced our valuations and create concerns for us in our ability to invest. We are addressing both of them right now, and I will speak about them. The first one was the uncertainty of tariffs. Because President is absolutely right. Tariffs is the most powerful tool to motivate behaviors, Mr. President, and clearly motivated ours, right? So by this agreement that we did, we commit to onshore the production of our medicines that are consumed in the US and are made outside the US. And for that, we are ready to unleash our investment portfolio in this country. And the President graciously gave us a 3-year grace period that we will not be subject to the 232 tariffs, as long as, of course, we move the products here. That's one. The second overhang in our industry was this uncertainty. What will happen with the framework of pricing in the country? Because this uncertainty, it was what was holding people from investing in the pharmaceutical industry, which resulted in significant reduction of our multiples. Actually, our multiples are at historical low. Well, now we have clarity about what is the framework for the US pricing. Read the letter of President Trump, read the 4 points, and this is the framework. And we will abide to that, and going forward, this is how things will be priced in the US and abroad. We are ready to invest, as the President also mentioned, $70 billion in the next few years from Pfizer in manufacturing and research in America alone. I really think this is an historical moment because also I can put that behind us and focus on the things that I want to spend my time, cancer treatments, to bring better obesity medicines, to bring better vaccines, to bring things that people value. And thank you for allowing us to do that. I want to thank Secretary Kennedy. I want to thank Secretary Lutnick. Your leadership helped us to pull that together. You are the mastermind of everything, and without the brilliant way that you designed the whole thing, we wouldn't be able to make it happen. But you were even more brilliant because you had someone in your team that he was the driving force behind everything. And I don't have words to thank you for your integrity. And it is what you have said. We created trust from day one. And that was the most important thing that allowed us to be able to pull very difficult negotiations. Of course, also I want to thank the US trade representative, who is also heavily engaged, and he's probably the first trade representative that I have seen that cares about our industry and cares to do something about unfair situations out there, but more than anyone else. Mr. President, I want to thank you,
very much
for your leadership and, frankly, for your friendship. Thank you.
Albert, thank you very much. Great job. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. President. The growth of drug spending, that is, the increase in drug pricing, is the fastest and biggest increasing area of healthcare spending. So today's announcement has incredible implications for healthcare spending in the United States. And today marks the beginning of the end of the Great American Ripoff. And it also marks the beginning and the end of a great American tragedy, something I've seen as a physician at the bedside. Patients getting spun up into a financial rage, doing GoFundMe campaigns online, sending repeat reminders, asking people to donate, getting their churches to pass the offering plate from pew to pew, Sunday after Sunday, to try to get enough money to pay for a drug in the United States, a drug that's 5 or 10 times more expensive than the same drug in France or Germany or the UK. People get spun up, and it's a tragedy. Having cancer is hard enough. Getting spun up into a financial rage in order to try to get the money to pay for treatment makes it so much harder. 37% of people who go through cancer care say in the end that the financial toxicity makes them want to avoid or delay care in the future. That is, they're done with it. They're done with the system. That's how toxic financial toxicity can be. And for what? For what? So the U.S. can finance the R&D of the world? Well, that ends today, thanks to President Trump. So we want to see R&D. We want to see American pharmaceutical companies thrive. We want to see pharmaceutical companies that do business and manufacture in the United States thrive. At the FDA, we're doing our part. If you're going to equalize your price to that of other wealthy countries, we're not talking about Zimbabwe. We're talking about Germany, France, UK, Japan, other wealthy countries, the OECD countries. If you equalize your price, then we're going to put your future applications at the front of the line. A voucher to get a review in weeks has a market street value of about $500 million because every day is money when it comes to getting a drug approved. And so if you meet one of the president's national priorities stated very clearly, moving manufacturing to the United States, meeting a large unmet public health need, or equalizing your prices. We're the largest purchasers of drugs. We deserve the best prices. And so we're going to do our part. And if a generic company makes their drug in the United States, that application is going to move to the front of the line as well. And if you're going to build a plant in the United States, our FDA inspectors will walk through that plant during the construction phase, something never done before, so that it's ready on day one. So thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. They said it couldn't be done, and here we are. Thank you.
Chris, you may want to go up and just show one of the boards about how quickly the prices come down. And these are small examples. We're going to have it over 1,000% in some cases. You'll see that during the week. But we just picked out 4 at random, and you see the kind of numbers. Bobby and maybe Albert, good.
We picked 4 examples, but I want to be totally clear. These are not the only 4 examples. And as the President mentioned, this is not the only agreement. It is the first. It's a historic agreement. There are many to come, and we're excited to talk about them. And that means hundreds and hundreds of drugs. We are not exaggerating when we talk about reductions of up to 80%. We give you 4 examples here, one for dermatitis. The new price at MFN results in 80% reduction to what's available today. One in postmenopausal osteoporosis, 85%. Migraines that affect so many Americans, 50% reductions. Rheumatoid arthritis, something my own mother struggled with, 40% reductions. This is about access. This is about ensuring Americans have access to life-saving medications. These are real prices. These are net prices. They're not made up. They're not funny numbers.
Thank you very much, sir. And, great job you've done. Everybody here has been incredible. We've been standing here talking about the Make America Healthy Again a lot lately, and I think our meeting the other day was excellent on a thing called Tylenol. That was a very important meeting. I think that was a very important meeting. And this, in terms of pricing, it's going to be great for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. It's going to be great for everything because your medicine costs are coming way down. We have some examples that I think we'll be able to show you next week of over 1,000% in some cases, where a pill that cost $10 in London was costing $130 in New York and various other places within the United States. And the same thing with Canada. People would go to Canada, they'd go to Mexico, they'd go to other places to buy drugs. They don't have to do that anymore. So we have favored nations. So that's what we have. And it's one of the biggest days I think anybody will ever have. We're talking about massive numbers, and the numbers are going to get even better with a little time. And I will say, Albert, I think that the drug companies are going to be the same. You're going to, you know. Talking about, you're going to see one over 1,000%. Look at these numbers. So, and this has a big impact, even on the discussion that we'll have with Chuck Schumer, who was here yesterday, along with a very nice gentleman who I didn't really know. You know who I'm talking about. The two of them came and we had a good discussion, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens, but this has a huge impact on that because these numbers are going to bring Medicaid. We talk about Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. Obamacare is not good. It's not. It's there, but relative to other health care programs, it's in the lower 20%. It's not good. And I asked the Democrat representatives, what do you think about coming up with a better health care? This actually allows you to do that because the cost of prescription medicine is a big, I guess, a very big, more than 50% the cost of what we're talking about. So we might be able to do something like that. This is one of the biggest news conference from a medical standpoint that I think has ever been had by any administration. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I'm curious, where are the other companies other than Pfizer? Are you expecting them to come on later?
They're all with us. And I was honored to have Albert be the first. He's done a fantastic job with, as you know, with the COVID. He did a fantastic job with a lot of things. He's a leader, and Pfizer is right at the top. You know, it's there. Eli Lilly has been fantastic also, your friend, my friend. And they're all coming in over the next week. We're making deals with all of them. And I said, if we don't make a deal, then we're going to tariff them an extra 5, 6, 7, 8%, whatever the difference is, and we'll take it that way. So we took away the advantage by the fact that we have tariffs. We took away the advantage that they would have of just saying no, and we couldn't do anything about it. If they do that, what we do is we'd put a tariff on them of an equivalent amount, and we take it that way. And nobody wants to play that game. So they're going to be, they're all going to be good. We didn't have to mention that to Albert. Well, maybe I whispered it to him very slightly, you know. We had to give ourselves a little bit of an advantage. But no, but the tariffs played a big role because they know that's what's going to happen.
President Trump. You mentioned the tariff, the exemption of the 232s, but can you share a timeline for when we can expect the results of that 232 investigation?
Let Howard answer that question, please.
Sure. So while we're negotiating with these companies, we're going to let them play out and finish these negotiations because they are the most important thing to the American people. So we are standing by, helping and working with them, but the driver of the 232 outcomes is our HHS team because, I mean, look what they've accomplished today. So we are on their side helping them, but that is the model that's going to drive.
And you have to understand, Albert's spending $70 billion that he wouldn't be spending because of the tariffs, let's say, and other reasons. I think he liked the winner of November 5th, in all fairness, but because of the tariffs. And that wouldn't happen. He's not going to pay any tariffs because when he moves here, there are no tariffs. So he won't be paying tariffs. That's the beauty of it. If you move here, there are no tariffs. And we have over $17 trillion, Albert. Do you believe these numbers? So Biden had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have over $17 trillion for essentially 8 months. Pretty amazing.
When will prices come down, Mr. President? When can America?
They're going to start coming down. Drug prices? Well, they'll be starting immediately. Yeah.
President, can you speak to what impact you think this reduction in drug prices will have on midterms coming up?
I think it's going to have a huge. I said, if we can pull this off before midterms, I've wanted to do it from the beginning, from my first day in first term. And we were doing so well. We had the greatest economy we've ever had. Everything was good. And then we're ready to do this, which is complex and big. It's a big change. But what happened is COVID came, and we focused on COVID. We focused on COVID very hard with Albert, with the other companies, with everybody. Regeneron was a great thing. You know, we did a lot of therapeutics that were fantastic. And so we focused on that. And I said, if I pull this off again, the first thing I'm going to do, and you know, we've been working on this for 8 months. It's a very big deal. This is a big shock to the system. But it's not as much as I said. They're going to go up. The world is going to go up a little bit. We're going to come down a lot. But now it's fair. We're going to be paying the same thing. Yeah.
President Trump, in your first term, when you cut the price of insulin, Biden later came in. He tried to steal credit for that. Do you think that? Do you worry that the Democrats are going to try to steal credit for these historic cuts?
It's very. I really appreciate your question because I did. I cut the price of insulin down to $35. And the problem is with many of these things, and in this case it's going to be pretty quick, but oftentimes you'll do something medically because of the process, and it won't be seen for 2 or 3 years. That happened also with, I could say 4 different things, but just if you talk about insulin, so it was 200, 300, 500, and you couldn't get it, and I got it down to 35. And I said, I hope I win the next election because otherwise whoever wins is going to take credit for it. Well, what happened is we did win the election. We did great. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way from a practical standpoint. And Biden, when I saw him get up and take credit for the $35 and even less insulin, that was 1,000% lower than what it was just previous. Boy, I tell you, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So I did the best I could to let him know we did it, because we want to be given credit. But we are the ones that got insulin down to that number. And you're right. They tried to take credit for it. They had nothing to do. In fact, they didn't even know what happened. All of a sudden, the insulin price kicked in at $35. And they asked Biden about it. He had no idea what the hell they were talking about. But after they explained, and they didn't really explain to him because he was not capable really of understanding it, but when they went out and talked about it, they acted like it was a great feat but it had nothing to do with him. And it continues, and we'll get it down even further. But insulin was, people weren't taking it, I would imagine. They couldn't take it. God bless you, Bobby. I hope I didn't catch COVID just there. Don't you have Paxlovid? What is it? He's got Paxlovid. Give me a Paxlovid immediately.
While Nancy Pelosi is ignoring what you're doing for the American people, she's going after your administration for cutting taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens. Last night, Nancy Pelosi, she went on NBC last night, dropped a bunch of F-bombs, told Republicans to go F themselves. Has she lost her mind?
We have done an unbelievable job medically. Just this, if you did nothing else, we've done a lot like the insulin, but just this, nobody can ever catch this. This is the biggest price reduction times, maybe 10 times, 15 times than has ever been given before. And this is going to have a huge impact. You know, as I said, Obamacare is not a good thing. It's been bad. And I'd like to make it better. I told them, I spoke to a lot of people, a lot of Democrats recently. I said, why don't we change it? We can make Obamacare much better. We could come up with a new system that would be much better, less expensive for the people and better. This is maybe the biggest breakthrough because, you know, when you're talking about the prescription drugs, that's a big part of it. So we're going to look. This is prescription, but we're going to be looking at that. We could come up and through this whole thing, you know, because I don't know, we'll probably have a shutdown because one of the things they want to do is they want to give incredible Medicare, the Cadillac Medicare, to illegal immigrants. And what that does is it keeps them coming into our country, and like they do in California. And no country can afford that. No country. And we have the border stopped up. We have it closed. We have nobody for 4 months. Zero people came in. That wasn't me. That's by the authorities who happen to be liberally oriented. But just think of that. We have people offering health care to people all over the world that they can't afford to pay. And that's the Democrats. And what that does is it brings people into the country because they want to come in for the health care. But no country can afford it, and they can't afford it. So we cannot allow them to charge tremendous amounts of money for health care for people that aren't even citizens. And in many cases, they come in from prisons, jails, and mental institutions. And we can't let that happen. So we have a big fight over that. We have a fight over open borders. They still want open borders. We're having a fight over men and women's sports, if you believe it. You would have thought they would have learned that it's not a good issue. And we have a fight in transgender, as you know, transgender for everybody. And that, when you talk medically, that's a lot of money, too. That's a lot. Those operations are bad. So those things are also being discussed right now. I mean, can you imagine we're actually talking about open borders, and we now have a great border, and we have a great country. Our country was dead 1 year ago. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. Big difference. Yeah.
What does it say about the state of the Democrat Party when they have a 33% favorability rating on average in recent months, and they're willing to shut down the government over health care?
They are shutting it down. We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested, so the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, you know, we're cutting that. But they want to have illegal aliens come into our country and get massive health care at the cost to everybody else, and we don't have it. And that's I would say, the number one reason that they want to strike is to get illegal immigrants health care. And, you know, Gavin Newsom wants that, too, in California, and it's destroying California. We can't have that. We're not going to let it happen.
Do you have a plan for dealing with drug companies that are responding to MFN only by raising prices overseas as opposed to lowering prices in the U.S.?
No, they're responding. I understand that question very well, but they're responding by lowering prices. They're helped by lowering prices. You know, there's a price at which they can't sell, and they're helped by lowering prices. In the case of Albert and in the case of Eli Lilly, the fact is our prices are coming down massively. You see, that's just a few of the basics, but they're coming down much more than that with many drugs, and over 1,000%. Think of that, over 1,000% reduction. And we'll show you that next week because we have some of them on the board next week where you have over 1,000% price reduction. No, what's going to happen is you're going to have the market will kick in. This way the market kicks in. The other way it was just basically it was just a form of control. You were stifling the market. Yeah.
At this point, is a shutdown inevitable? And how would you describe the negotiations with Democrats yesterday? Are more meetings scheduled?
So nothing is inevitable, but I would say it's probably likely because they want to give health care to illegal immigrants, which will destroy health care for everybody else in our country. And I didn't see them bend even a little bit when I said we can't do that. Okay?
Can I ask a question of Dr. Oz, Administrator? Yes. If there is no deal reached on the Obamacare subsidies with the Democrats, is there anything that CMS can do to lower those, or to mitigate the increases of those Obamacare subsidies?
Not really, but we have time.
Back, never like it was, because we got rid of 1,700 career criminals. You know what that is? One career criminal can give you a lousy reputation for danger because they commit many crimes a day in some cases. But Washington, D.C. is an unbelievable example of what can happen. And now we're going, as you know, to Memphis, which was very similar to Washington, very dangerous. And we're there, and we're working along very well with the governor, the mayor. A lot of these Democrat mayors, you know what they don't want to have us do well, because if we do well, it makes them look bad, and they shouldn't feel that way. If I were a Democrat and I was a governor or mayor, I'd be calling Trump. I'd say, get your troops over here, just help, because the mayor of Washington is getting a lot of credit for what we did, you know, a lot of credit. But the beauty is, isn't it nice, seriously, you walk down the street, you're not going to be mugged, you're not going to be hit. We had a meeting about 3-4 months ago, and I was saying to the media, how many of you people have been threatened or mugged or accosted during your walk to the White House? And they said, we don't walk to the White House anymore. But the answer was, remember, Brian, almost everybody's, look at this guy. They even attacked this big, strong guy, right? Didn't you get attacked? Did you? But yeah, just take a look at the other guy, right? What happened to the other guy? I don't know. Those other guys are pretty tough. They're tough with a gun in their hand, right? And yeah, you were hit pretty hard, but almost everybody was. And now, nobody. Anybody been accosted in the last 3 weeks? If I would have said that 6 months ago, half the hands would have been raised out. No, we have a very safe city now. The country's going to be safe. We're doing one at a time, and we'll be going to Chicago. I told you this, sir. Union Pacific, head of the railroad. He knows this country very well. Started off as a very low-rung employee of the Union Pacific. He's now chairman. He came to me and he said, sir, save Chicago. It's a great city. It's going down fast. They had 11 people killed over the last couple of weeks. 11 people killed, 48 shot. That's not a city. It's a war zone. There's no city in the world like that. And then we have to listen to this Pritzker get up. I know him well. They threw him out of his business, and the family threw him out of the business because he's a loser. But we have to listen to Pritzker get up. He should call me and say, get the troops in. You ever hear that? 11 people over a week and a half killed. And I think it's 48, when you add it up, 48 people shot. And then I have to listen to a governor say how nice it is. It's a wonderful experience. Now, what is a wonderful experience is D.C. People are eating in the restaurants. They just opened 2 new restaurants, which hasn't worked in years. And we had it pretty good 4 years ago. We were just getting ready to do this, but we did it right. And, you know, we have a big victory in the Supreme Court. It's called merit. And so that includes the military. Our soldiers, did you see what they look like? These guys, they look like serious soldiers. They weren't playing games. And they went in there and they did a fantastic job. And Washington, D.C. is now a beautiful, safe city. The restaurants are thriving. The people are walking down the street holding their husband or their boyfriend's hand, and they're not worried about being raped or mugged or shot at. And it's been an amazing thing. And we'll do that in every city. We'll do them sort of one at a time. We'll do a couple at a time. And we have a tremendous force because, as you know, in recruitment numbers, when we put out, 2 years ago, when Biden would put out recruitment, nobody would join. Nobody wanted to be in the military. Nobody wanted to be police. It was just announced this morning. You probably saw my speech over with the military, with the generals, admirals. Record numbers of people signing up for the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. I love Space Force. That was my baby. But we have record numbers of people signing up, and that includes police department, fire department. So, you know, it's been an amazing thing. Well, we're going to have another meeting next week on this. We have another great company coming in, similar kind of numbers. But we're going to show you some 1,000% drops in prices. There has never been anything like this in the history of medicine, and it's an honor. And Albert, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody behind me, because you are a great team. We have a great team. Everybody says you have a great cabinet. It's a great team. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
President Donald Trump wrapping up his news conference inside the Oval Office there, where he was announcing a deal with drug manufacturer Pfizer to sell drugs at lower prices in the Medicaid program. We heard from a number of officials during that news conference and that announcement inside the Oval Office. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, and we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Attorney Ben Crump held a news conference this morning in Orlando, joined once again by the family of Kevin Rodriguez Zavala, the 32-year-old man who died after riding Stardust Racers roller coaster at Epic Universe earlier this month, I should say. In that news conference, we heard from Attorney Crump saying that they've also heard of others who say they were injured on that ride. Crump saying the ride is dangerous and that the Universal, he alleges, was negligent in not responding to a prior complaint about that. We also learned some new details about Zavala's last ride on that roller coaster. In fact, we learned that he apparently at one point had lurched forward during the first dip and hit his head and then was unconscious for the rest of the ride. That's according to the attorneys representing his family. They also said that once the autopsy is, the report from that is complete, that they will share some more information, but that he had what they called extensive injuries. Here's a little bit of what Ben Crump had to say at that news conference earlier today in Orlando.
Good morning. I'm Attorney Ben Crump, and along with Attorney Natalie Jackson, Attorney Paul Grinke, Attorney Aaron Deacle, we have the honor with the rest of our legal team of representing the family of Kevin Rodriguez Zavala, who, as you all know, almost 2 weeks ago, was tragically killed while riding on Universal Studios' Epic Universe Starduster Racers roller coaster. We're very thankful for the outpouring of support and prayers that has been given to Kevin's family, this very close-knit, loving family. We are thankful to everybody who came to celebrate his life on last Friday and got to witness his last sword fight with the Star Wars lifesavers, that they all had incredible photos at the funeral services that was symbolic of how much Kevin loved Star Wars. Kevin, as they often said, was just full of life. And even though he was born with spinal cord atrophy, he never used that as an excuse. Never once. As we said, he drove, he had a bachelor's degree, he was an independent person, and he loved amusement parks, roller coasters. He was an enthusiast. It helped make him feel free. And so we say all of that as the backdrop as we talk to you about this tragedy in more detail. Present with me from his family today is his mother and father, Anna.
This page is not set up for me to read.
His mother and father, Anna and Carlos. His sister, Lisa, and her husband, Anthony. His brother, Michael. His girlfriend, Javalise, and her mother, Liz. And their family is so close-knit and special in so many ways, but there's something missing, and that is Kevin, who was the light of their family. He was the spark, and all of them would tell you, every moment that passes, he's missed even more. And so with that, we want to talk about, since the press conference last week, Others have come forward, not only witnesses, but more importantly, you have had other riders have come forward to talk about that they too sustained injuries from this ride. So we start off with the additional injured riders. Since the family went public, multiple riders have come forward reporting their own injuries on the Stardust Racers roller coaster. These injuries are consistent. Problems with restraints, riders being thrown forward, hitting hard structures. This shows that Kevin's case was not an isolated incident. Let me repeat that. The multiple Stardust Racers roller coaster riders who have come forward to the family and our office leads us to believe that Kevin's case was not an isolated incident. Eyewitness corroboration. Kevin's girlfriend, who was on the ride with him, described how Kevin was thrown forward due to restraint issues. Other riders' stories align with her account, reinforcing the allegations that the safety systems on this ride were inadequate. Social media accounts. People have shared their own experiences with our team and on social media describing similar injuries and restraint problems on the same ride. These firsthand accounts confirm that Kevin's tragedy was not an isolated incident, which begs the question, was this part of a pattern consistent with what appears to have caused Kevin to be killed? This, we believe, is equally important, very important, as Attorney Jackson and Attorney Grinke and I, Attorney Dinkel, we continue to study every aspect of this case. The ride history presents an alarming timeline, very alarming timeline. The Stardust Racers just opened on May 22nd, 2025. Yet, in just a few months, there have already been multiple complaints of injuries long before Kevin's death. Even before the ride opened, on April 30th, 2025, a woman complained in a recently filed lawsuit that while riding the Stardust Racers roller coaster, her head shook violently and slammed again into her seat's headrest throughout the duration of the ride. This is before the ride even opened. They had a complaint of a lady talking about she had restraint issues. This is very consistent with the medical examiner's statement that Kevin died from multiple blunt force impact injuries. It is consistent, very consistent, and that is what is so troubling for this family. That people had complained about this, and you're going to hear from the family in just a minute about how people, what they sent them, what they reached out to them on social media, and how they forewarned that something like this was going to happen if Universal Studios didn't deal with these safety issues. And why weren't these warnings taken seriously? They believe if they were, Kevin might be here today. missed warnings and accountability. The family believes Universal missed multiple warning signs before Kevin's death. Before I have the family come up, I'm going to ask Attorney Greinke, who is my co-director of litigation along with Attorney Jackson, to come and talk about some other troubling things about the whole dynamic of what's going on with people complaining and why warning signs we believe should have been addressed in a better manner. And he'll talk a little bit about what's going on with the investigations to this point. Attorney Greinke, if you would.
Hey, good morning. We are back here before you so quickly because we believe that this is a matter of great public concern. And as our legal team has begun our investigation into Kevin's loss, we have great concerns about the safety of this ride to the greater public. And so we want to keep you apprised of what we're seeing, and we will continue to do so. One thing I want to add is that in addition to these other instances that have been personally reported to our legal team and that we have seen on social media, where similar injuries have occurred, how much more important should it have been for Universal to investigate these injuries and see how the ride might affect someone in a wheelchair or with a disability? It's been reported, and we are seeing that large companies like Universal self-report and self-police themselves with respect to any type of government oversight. The instances that I've seen that Universal has self-reported with respect to this very ride and other rides at the Epic Universe in the short time it's been open have been very self-serving. It seems convenient to me that each of the few reports that they have published or given to the state of Florida regarding injuries have all been given to pre-existing conditions. We're not so sure about that. We will be calling upon greater government oversight of large companies like Universal instead of just letting them self-report. We'll talk to you about it as things progress, but we are in open communications with state and local officials in that regard.
Thank you very much, Attorney Greinke. And to just be direct, they've self-reported 4 times now, three about this ride where people complained of injuries. And in those occasions, they've all concluded that it was based on prior pre-existing injuries. So it's almost as if they're washing their hands. But we believe that these were warning signs that there was something wrong with the design of this ride, and that they tried to blame the victims. They didn't want to say, well, maybe we have to go back and critically assess this ride and the design of this ride. It was a suggestion, and we pray, as I said at the prior press conference, that Universal Studios isn't suggesting this, that Kevin disabilities was the cause of his death, because that is offensive and very insulting, not only to Kevin, not only to disabled citizens across the world, but it's insulting especially to his family for them to suggest that. Very, very insulting, because they assisted him with his girlfriend in getting on the ride. If they believe that disabled people should not be on this roller coaster, then why would you assist him in getting on the roller coaster? No, you can't justify this by trying to blame the victim. You cannot justify this. And so this is very emotional. We're going to have
This is attorney Ben Crump speaking at that news conference earlier today in Orlando, where you also heard from one of his fellow attorneys saying they want more government oversight when it comes to the reporting of injuries and deaths that happen on these rides. It's a process right now that they self-report, and you heard some of what they said about some of the other cases that have been self-reported on this very ride, the Stardust Racers. We have reached out to Universal today for an updated statement on some of the new allegations from Ben Crump and his team at that news conference earlier today. But at last check, we are still waiting to hear back from them. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Let me give you a live look at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. And you really can't see any of the beach right now. It is a high tide clearly, and you can see the surf coming up all the way on the top of the sand there. This are some conditions we're going to expect to continue seeing, with a rough surf, high winds as well, with now Hurricane Imelda off the Atlantic coast. It's a cloudy day across much of central Florida, especially along the Atlantic coast. Meanwhile, Bermuda bracing for some impacts. Let me show you the latest from the National Hurricane Center, talking about damaging hurricane force winds expected in Bermuda when it passes near or over that island by Wednesday afternoon or evening. There is a hurricane warning now in effect for Bermuda, expecting large and damaging waves, heavy rainfall, swells, and high surf. And again, we are expected to, here along our coast in Florida, expected to see the rough surf and the rip currents and all of the things that we're seeing now for several more days as well. So certainly something to be aware of. Now let me give you a live look right now in South Florida. This is in Miami. A live look at the Freedom Tower, the Kaseya Center that you see, the home of the Miami Heat. And the parking lot right next to the Freedom Tower was the center of a vote in the Florida Cabinet meeting earlier today. The state voting and to approve conveying land for a Trump presidential library on this site. It is 2.63 acres in Miami-Dade County, right next to the Freedom Tower there. It's currently being used right now as an employee parking lot for the Miami-Dade College Wolfson campus that is there. But the state, again, state leaders voting unanimously to approve that when it came before them in their cabinet meeting earlier today. Take a listen.
And good morning, trustees. We appreciate your support for Bradley Perry as the new director of the Division of State Lands. He's eager to start this week and looks forward to working with you and your staff. The department has 4 items for your consideration today. Item 1 is a request to accept approximately 2.63 acres of non-conservation land from Miami-Dade College, convey the property to the Donald J. Trump Presidential Library Foundation, and determine that the conveyance is in the public interest.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or discussions on this?
Yeah, I'll just say I think this would be great for the state to house our first presidential library. That's great for Miami-Dade College. I think it'll provide a lot of nice opportunities for partnerships and their students to find employment and other education opportunities. President Trump has a great story to tell. As a Florida resident, I think it's quite fitting that we house it. And as Miami becomes kind of the capital of the world in many respects, I think it'll be a great location. So I vote yes.
Governor, I just want to echo those remarks and thank you and the AG and the Commissioner for bringing this to the state of Florida. I think it is just symbolic in so many different ways, including being in close proximity to the Freedom Tower. So I'm an enthusiastic yes today on this.
Yeah, I think it's unique to one, obviously to have this in Florida, period, but then to be associated with one of our state colleges. And this would be the first presidential library that's been affiliated with a state college anywhere. I mean, I know you have others with universities. I think George W. Bush is SMU. I think Bush 41 is A&M, and you have them around the country. And not all of them are affiliated. Some of them are just standalone. But to have Miami-Dade College students have opportunities to be able to have programs associated with the Trump Presidential Library, I think is a unique opportunity for the state. And so we're happy to support this motion. Does anybody, so I move to approve the item as submitted. Is there a second? Second. Third? Okay, the motion carries. Next item.
And so that has been approved, and we will talk more about that in our next hour. When we speak with Kimberly Leonard, a Politico reporter. She has been to that site and has some additional insight to provide as well when it comes to the Trump Presidential Library. So that'll be coming up about an hour from now, 2:25 or so, in our 2 o'clock Florida Live program here on Fox Local. Well, today also is the day that the state's new minimum wage goes into effect. It's now up to $14 an hour effective today. This is because back in 2020, voters here in Florida approved a gradual increase of the minimum wage going up through the year 2026, which is next year when it will hit $15 an hour. And then after that, changes will depend on the inflation rates. Sean Snape, the UCF economist, was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about it.
Well, I think the people that are going to be most impacted are young workers, ages 16 to 24. Right now, nationally, the unemployment rate for that age group is already at 10.5%. And so I think this is going to put additional pressure on the labor market for people of that age, young, less experienced workers.
Sean, as you know, the timing's tough on this because we saw inflation go up. Some people had said this might drive it. Then we had the pandemic. So you got all these factors driving costs up. So people making more, they don't feel like they're making more. And that kind of makes it difficult because they almost need more than they're getting.
Right. And the earlier increases in the minimum wage were taking place during a time as we were coming out of the pandemic where there was a significant labor shortage in the economy. And so market wages were actually higher than what the minimum wage was. So the minimum wage really didn't enter into the picture. But now, as we approach $14 and then $15, this is going to put pressure on businesses, small businesses and large for that matter. And, we've seen the changes with our own eyes, increasing uses of kiosks, self-checkout lanes, and now even in some drive-thrus, the implementation of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, Sean, that was my next question. You've heard a lot of people, economists, saying, look, this AI move is coming. And Walmart said this week it's going to affect jobs all over the country. We don't know how soon that's taking effect. It already is in some cases. How does that make this debate go forward? Because, yes, you want more money, but will it encourage more companies to move that route?
Well, this process, technological change was underway, before any changes to the minimum wage law, but this may accelerate that process. It will make it more difficult for, small businesses who don't necessarily have access to the technology, and that will raise their labor costs, and they'll be forced to make choices. So, when you change the rules of the game, Ryan, the players will change the way they play the game. So it's not just as simple as raising the minimum wage and everybody's paycheck.
Well put, for sure. Let's finish with this. If someone's making $20 an hour, will they see kind of the tide lifting all boats? It wouldn't affect them, but how will that affect the higher or wage earners in these cases?
As I said, I think the impact is going to be most predominantly on the younger workers. And as the minimum wage goes up, you may see some people, that are older and more experienced sort of moving down into these positions, making it even more difficult for young people and experienced people to get these kind of jobs.
Just about 20 seconds left, so I want to get your take on the job market. How things look in terms of unemployment and stuff that you see in Central Florida?
I think it still looks pretty good. I mean, job growth has slowed. We saw the national job numbers revised down significantly recently. So hiring is decelerating, but the unemployment rate overall remains at historically low levels. So we're still hanging in there.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus, a live look right now at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., where we are less than 12 hours away now from a government shutdown. The deadline for a deal looming. We talked about it yesterday with Congressman Randy Fine, yesterday here on Fox Local, and that deadline coming up tonight at midnight. When the clock strikes midnight and October 1st begins, if there is not a deal in place, then there will be a federal government shutdown. Meanwhile, there are also a lot of hearings going on this week in the Capitol about crime, and some of those going on today. A Senate Judiciary Committee, Ashley Moody having the chance to ask some questions of a number of witnesses, and we'll have more on that coming up in just a little bit. Now, yesterday we saw a House Judiciary Subcommittee meeting that was held in Charlotte, looking specifically at some of the crime in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. It was a field hearing, so they were on the ground there in Charlotte. Congresswoman Laurel Lee, a Republican from Florida, was one of the members who spoke during that subcommittee meeting and also had the chance to ask some questions. And I want to play for you that segment, about 5 minutes, as she had the floor and spoke during that meeting.
When judges fail to consider a violent criminal history, or when they're required to look away from a violent criminal history, we see absolutely tragic consequences. Our committee has been traveling the country to try to tell the stories of the real people and the real families who have been forever and permanently affected by crimes of violence, and crimes of violence that could have and should have been prevented with good criminal justice policies. These hearings are an effort to show that these tragedies are not numbers, they are not statistics, they are certainly not political theater. They are real stories of families, sons, daughters, whose lives are lost or permanently changed. As a mother, I thank you for being here and for being willing to share with us the stories of your families. There is nothing that could give better perspective on how vital and critical it is for us to stop soft on crime policies that lead to these kinds of tragic results. Officer Campbell, I'd like to start with you. You mentioned that you and your colleagues, the day that you were injured, and several of them killed, were responding to a call that involved a violent recidivist. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Is that something that was unusual in your experience, or is that something that happens to you and your colleagues regularly?
I would say that was an unusual circumstance.
Yes. Now, in your experience, is there a broader challenge related to violent recidivists being out on release before trial?
Yes.
What effect does that have on your ability to do your job safely?
So, as a police officer, I would say we spend a lot of our time chasing our tail and rearresting the same people that we arrested the week prior, while the violent crime continues. A lot of crime is stopped just by our mere presence, but our presence is pulled because, again, we continue to arrest and deal with the same people day in and day out.
Mr. Woody, one thing that you mentioned was the concept of an unsecured bond or releasing someone on their own recognizance. Tell us, if you would, your perspective on the significance of instead having a secured bond or detaining someone pending trial.
Cosigner is required, an indemnitor per se. That indemnitor is going to be a family member, a close friend, a relative, or someone that has substantial collateral and something to lose if this defendant reoffends, if this defendant absconds, or if this defendant goes out and just thumbs his nose, per se, as the word was used earlier, to the court.
And Ms. Alderman, You mentioned something in your earlier testimony that I think is a really important point for everyone here to understand, and that is that it's been 5 years
and
you're still waiting on a trial for the offenders in your granddaughter's case.
That, Ms. Lee, is not uncommon in Mecklenburg County. We are not the only ones. The murder docket, or whatever, I don't know the legal terms, but murder trials are between 5 and 7, sometimes more, years behind. And that is outrageous. And what the district attorney's office will tell the victims, they did tell me, and they have told others that I've spoken to, time is not a friend to your case. Time only hurts your case. When you have a heinous crime, like, for example, because I'm here for Mary, what they did to Mary, they had the evidence, they had the people, they had a witness in Mary herself, because they had wanted to burn Mary's body in that mattress. And something that horrific is just put in line, just, whenever, when they get to it. So they're just finishing up 2019. Mary was murdered in 2020. So that personally, to me, makes no sense. Every single person who was murdered, there should be a swift prosecution, and they should be prosecuted, and it should be taken care of. In addition to that, in my opinion, something as heinous as what they did to Mary and others in Mecklenburg County should be dealt with more swiftly.
Thank you, Ms. Alderman. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Congresswoman Laurel Lee speaking yesterday in that field hearing in Charlotte, North Carolina, where you also heard from some loved ones and other officials as well, talking about some specific cases in that area. Now today, again, as I mentioned, the Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing about crime and the cost of what they say are soft on crime policies in certain cities across the country. We'll hear more from Senator Ashley Moody coming up in just a little bit. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we've got much more to come, so keep it here on Fox Local and on YouTube, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. We have seen in the past few weeks a number of communities across Florida, across the country, looking at showing support and finding ways to honor the memory of Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist who was killed earlier this month after being shot at a university event in Utah. Just last week, we saw Lake County here in Florida vote to approve designating Schofield Road in the county as Charlie Kirk Memorial Highway. Also last week, we saw the city of Melbourne reject a plan to rename a city street or a portion of a city street after Charlie Kirk. The city of Clearwater had a similar debate and discussion last night where a motion there to rename a downtown road after Charlie Kirk, after that motion basically died after no council member voted to second that motion. They had public comment that lasted more than an hour after the mayor decided to let them speak even after that motion failed, and the council was almost unanimous against the renaming of that road. But several speakers who we heard from called out the council member Ryan Cotton, who proposed that motion. We did hear from Councilman Ryan Cotton about his reason behind this, and some people speaking in public comment as well. Here's some of that debate from the city of Clearwater.
I guess tell me about this proposal of yours.
Yeah, so we all know that not too long ago Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and one of the main reasons that I'm bringing this up is not because of any political ideology or line in the road, but for what he stood for, right? And those were being able to articulate, have an open dialogue that's honest, and allow the other side, whatever side that may be, to have that conversation. You know, if we all just sit back and don't communicate and have silence, how are we ever going to know what other people are feeling, how to work together and come to solutions? So at the very intent and everything for this is, if you could sum it up in almost one sentence, is that Charlie Kirk was assassinated for freedom of speech and essentially bringing the second mic, right? And that's the most important thing that I want everybody to understand, is that it's all about that freedom of speech, open and honest dialogue, and being able to say what you believe without any type of threat or feeling unsafe.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, he obviously had conservative values. So for folks that are kind of concerned, you know, about whether that'll make, you know, Clearwater kind of look more like a conservative place and not welcome to the other side, or for everyone, what would you kind of say to that?
Right, you know, I would ask them to do what I do, and I like to put myself in other people's shoes, right? See what that other side has to think and try and see it for what it is and not any intentions that might be behind it. Listen to the words and see how that goes, right? And see if that works for you. Anytime I'm on the dais, I obviously have core characteristic principles that guide me and give me the discernment and wisdom of where I should go. However, I always try and see the vantage point of all sides before making a decision.
Okay, and then for people that are afraid, you know, politics has no place in like a small community like this, what would you say?
I don't know that this is a small community. I mean, Clearwater is my home, second generation Clearwater native. We have over 100,000 people in our population and hopefully more. You know, we have a world-class beach, and we're trying to work on revitalizing our downtown. So, you know, I hope that Clearwater grows and that people love to live here, work here, and enjoy what we have to offer.
And I was quite disturbed when I heard about this proposal that you submitted, Cotton. I'm just going to quote Charlie Kirk. "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified." It's happening all the time in urban America. Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder if she's there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? You had to go and steal a white person's slot to go be a token and to be taken somewhat seriously. The American Democrat Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America is less white. Those are exact quotes from Charlie Kirk. What the media is not doing is they are not playing his quotes. And I am dressed in my normal occupational attire here to let you know that along with Ketanji Brown Jackson, Michelle Obama, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Joy Reid, I am a black woman who is absolutely educated. And it was not given to me because I'm black. My father was a lawyer who was educated at Harvard Law School. That was not given to him because he was black. So I want you to know that as you try and deify Charlie Kirk, you are also deifying white supremacy. And do you want white supremacy to reign here in Clearwater? I ask you. I ask you. Answer.
Yeah. Please. It's her time with the microphones. Please do.
My time is not up yet.
No, I'm trying to get them to quiet down so you can finish.
So I want to ask you, is white supremacy the rule of law here in Clearwater? I'm asking him because he's the one who proposed deifying this person.
Ma'am, this is your time to make a presentation to us. So.
Okay. So what I am saying...
So if I may, real quick, because it's not being conveyed, this is your time to speak. We don't speak back to you. That's how this works. So I'm not trying not to answer you. I was waiting for that to be clarified.
All I did was quote verbatim what Charlie Kirk's words were. Are those divisive words? Are those collective words that bring you in? No. Those are words of hate.
Mr. Kirk didn't have ties to Clearwater. He didn't have anything that he brought to Clearwater. And the council, as you know, is nonpartisan. And he was definitely conservative right-wing. And his claim to fame is he helped college students get elected to help President Trump get elected. And we're in a time in our life where the laws and rules that we've gained are being rolled back. And from the national office of the NAACP, and I spoke to our national chairman, he had a resounding no on this issue, and I'm glad that you saw fit to not allow it to move forward. There are many people in Clearwater who have already served, as you already stated, Mayor, that have contributed to the city. You know, I sat on the development boards for 12 years of Parks and Rec. I sat on the Mayor's Task Force for 4 years. I've given a lot of my time to the city of Clearwater. I don't want any honor or anything, but what I do want is to not be placated or to have people be disrespectful to the pain that certain individuals cause African Americans, and to want to name a street after him speaks volumes. And I'm glad you guys nixed that.
I don't think anybody should be assassinated or killed. I don't know why his was an assassination instead of just a shooting. But if you want to put it up to an assassination, fine. But nobody should be killed like that. And my heart goes out to his wife and his children. But people are killed or assassinated every day, and we don't name streets after them. That's the problem I had with trying to name a street after somebody that had nothing to do with Clearwater, nothing really to do with society that was peaceful, wanting people treated respectfully, these kinds of things that are the values supposedly of this country. If those are the values that we hold dear, then we definitely don't need to name a street after somebody that puts down a segment of that population, a segment of our population. I'm not in the group, but I respect them enough not to denigrate them publicly over and over again. This is wrong. God told us to love everybody, and you can't love them if you're going to put them down and denigrate them. And that's why I don't want a street, definitely not the main street that comes in the Clearwater with all of the millions of visitors that come here year in and year out named after him? Absolutely not. It doesn't have anything to do with how he died or who respects his opinion or whatever it is. I think he had a right to say whatever he needed to say to whoever wanted to listen without being killed.
Mr. Cotton, you spoke on inclusion and not exclusion. Mr. Kirk has done a lot in the community and for our nation when it comes to gun violence. But I'm a product that's from the city of Clearwater. I am first generation in the city of Clearwater. My mother has been a sole proprietor in this city for 52 years. I worked for the city of Clearwater. It's my first job, summer program. I could not believe that we were considering naming anything after a man that could say that my single black mother raised me to be a proud citizen of my city of Clearwater, my first job being the city of Clearwater, me graduating from Clearwater High, me graduating from the University of South Florida, me graduating from St. Leo with my master's in business, my master's in social work, to turn around and be a proud black woman to drive down the middle of my city named after that prejudiced individual. And I know that my city has busted its tail for 50 of my years to not be a diverted, excluded city. As a child, I could not drive in the car without seeing racial hate and people being pulled out of cars, beat up, going through North Greenwood because of racial inequality. The economic distribution patterns in this city sucked. And I'm a product that says that it can change. Change is supposed to be the city of Clearwater's name. I'm a product of what change looks like for the city of Clearwater. And it was so disappointing that that could even be a possibility.
Scripture tells us to, and all we get an understanding. And I really didn't know Mr. Kirk, didn't follow him, and I'm really sorry that he lost his life. Nobody should lose their life like that. Mr. Cotton, you've called me before, and only reason I'm here because when I got the word that it was you that made this proposal, Scripture says, we get good understanding. And I was trying to understand what you were thinking when you talked, and I heard what you were thinking, and I would like to say that Scripture also said, to win souls, you must be wise. That is not a wise decision. If you're trying to gain the support from the African American community, not a wise decision. Very not a wise. Somebody that had no ties to Clearwater. And I began to research some of the things that he said, and some of the things that he said is a slap in the face to the black community. We're tired of being slapped in the face. We're tired of being slapped in the face. It's not going to divide us. It's going to make us stronger. But it's going to divide you and us when you make decisions like this. I would have voted to name the road after Mayor Rector. I would have voted to name after Mr. Slaughter. But Charlie Kirk. Then I thought about another gentleman that lived on Court Street, Mac Dixon Sr. Yeah, he lived there, right there on Court Street. The first black establishment where the St. Matthew Cemetery still sits. And I was trying to figure out how and what you were thinking. Wrong message, wrong man, wrong city, wrong place, wrong season. With all of the more serious issues we got in Clearwater, why name a street? We got a lot of more things we need to be concerned about. The pastors are against this.
Charlie Kirk's murder was tragic, and no one should lose their life for their views. But naming Clearwater Street after him does not honor our city. He was not a resident of Clearwater or of Florida. His work did not serve our community. While some admire him and his views and skills as a debater, many experience his rhetoric as divisive and exclusionary. To rename Court Street for him would suggest that Clearwater endorses a narrow vision of who belongs here: Christian, white, straight, and male-oriented. That is not who we are. I have lived in Clearwater for 47 years. I have taught and counseled students in Pinellas County schools. I have witnessed firsthand diversity, resilience, and strength of our people. Clearwater is a community of many faiths, races, orientations, and backgrounds. We should honor that diversity, not diminish it. If the council believes Court Street should be renamed, there are countless men and women who have devoted their lives to this city, people who build bridges across differences, served the vulnerable, and strengthened our neighborhood. This decision is not about one man. It is about the values we choose to elevate, the message we send to our children, and the legacy we leave for the future. Let us not choose division.
Clearwater voting to, or deciding, I should say, to reject the renaming of a road there after Charlie Kirk. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us. The Miami Dolphins got their first win of the season last night on Monday Night Football against the winless New York Jets. But I tell you what, that win came with a cost, and that is star receiver Tyreek Hill, who dislocated his left knee and tore multiple ligaments as well, including his ACL, undergoing surgery today that is likely going to end his season for the Dolphins. Head coach Mike McDaniel opened his post-game news conference last night talking about Tyreek Hill and his demeanor while he was being carted off the field.
He was probably in the best spirits of any player that I've ever, it's such a terrible experience when you go out and see guys when they have issues like that. But he immediately had wide eyes and was talking, I'm good, just make sure the guys get this win. We didn't, and he was focused on the team. So That's what I know about it. Outside of that, I'm sure I'll be given more information tomorrow.
Like that kind of reaction, that kind of attitude from a guy who just suffered an injury like that, what kind of psychological impact do you think it had on the rest of the guys, especially with the way you guys responded?
I think it's giant. You know, a good portion of our team, we had offense up at the time, obviously, and so they're already close to the hash. And specifically, I saw them make eye contact and rip a joke or two to Waddle and Devon. And you know, I think a lot of guys got back into the game. You know, provoked by what he said verbally. You know, we've talked a lot about all the stuff that, you know, Tyreek has done this offseason, and a big portion is leading by example and connecting with his teammates, and he kind of utilized that connectivity to make sure that his team was finishing on the right end, you know. So he was inspiring in that situation, and I think his teammates benefited from that.
Mike, when you personally see that, and it goes through your mind of how bad and how long and all those things, what's your process of locking back in?
I can just open my eyes and see an entire team and stadium and organization that doesn't have time for my feelings. You know, I've never hesitate to, you know, talk about how I invest in players, and that's a gigantic piece. But as a leader, head coach, play caller, you know, I have to be adept at rising to the occasion for the group. So, you know, communicating, and then, you know, I let myself be in the moment with him, and, you know, share that, like every player that goes down with something that necessitates a cart, or, you know, I'm firmly there with them at that moment. But then when I walk out of there, I have to, you know, there's a lot of people depending on me, and what choice do you have when the injured player tells you to move on and win this game? You know, I'm not going to double down and not listen to him. So it's something that's not easy, but very important to do in my position.
What will it take now for this offense to move forward without Tyreek?
I guess, you know, it'll take what the players were doing after he left. It's football. It's 100% injury rate. He's great, valuable, very important player to us. But every team has the same situation going on, different cadence. Everybody has injuries. No one cares about who you don't have, and so it's the team playing football together. And you know, I think it would be important it'd be important for us to continue to be +3 like we were in this game against the New York Jets. But we just have to keep getting better. That's the exact thing that every team has to do, regardless of what anyone says. You know, in September, moving into October, you need to firmly develop your football, continue to get better regardless of result, and see where you lie in the later months.
I know that you guys were waiting until Waller was totally ready to go. Could you imagine that he would have a debut quite like this, 2 touchdowns?
Yeah. I mean, you don't put in plays or have players play, you know, with the expectation of, you know, anything but their best.
Head coach Mike McDaniel speaking last night after the Dolphins' 27-21 win over the New York Jets. The Dolphins get their first win of the year. They are now 1-3. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.